Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today regarding the visiting lecture with Oles Honchar Dnipro National University from Ukraine. Welcome to the Honorable Mr. Artem Dankanich as a PhD in Philosophy, Associate Professor of Department of Philosophy. For the topic today is Kinetic and the option of value-free science. Today's session is being live streamed on the Universitas STEKOM YouTube channel. And now I will read our agenda this afternoon. First, we will start with presentation by Mr. Artem Dankanich. Continue with the Q&A session, time for picture and closing. And for all participants, if you have any question for the speaker, please add them to the chat or you can raise your hand. And let's start our class today for Mr. Artem Dankanich. The time is yours. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for being with me today. It's a great pleasure to take part in this enterprise and to speculate about science, philosophy, progress, technologies, etc., especially these days at the present moment. So, and I would like to, today we'll be dealing with an extremely important issue, scientism and an optional of value-free science. Is it possible to be a scholar and to make an absolute objective claims or not? So this is my question, and this is all right. Do you see my screen here, my presentation?
Yes.
All right, so let's begin. If you're ready, let's begin. So what is scientism? Scientism is a very specific perspective on science, culture, society, and scientific methodology at all. So, but I would like to begin with the quote of widely known and well-respected American scholar and historian of science, William Provence. He claims that modern science directly implies that the world is organized strictly in accordance with mechanistic principles. So the science is a very way of practice in keeping with mechanics, as you can see. So there are no purposive principles whatsoever in nature. There are no gods and no design forces that are rationally detectable. So modern science directly implies that there are no inherent moral or ethical laws, no absolute guiding principles for human society. So human beings are marvelously complex machines, as we are. So when we die, and that is the end of us. Free will, as it's traditionally conceived, is the freedom to make unconcerted and unpredictable choices among alternative possible courses of action. Simply does not exist. There's no ultimate meaning for humans. So, and this explanation, this definition of scientism, in my opinion, is a vivid explanation. Okay, there is nothing but science. There's nothing but scientific approach and methodology. Okay. Australian scholar and philosopher John Calburn states that scientism is a view that only scientific knowledge is valid, that science can explain and do everything, and that nothing else can explain or do anything. It is a belief that science and reason, or scientific and rational, are coextensive terms. Science and reason are coextensive terms. Keep this in mind before making and arranging your questions. Okay, so, and what about implications of these viewpoints on science, scientific methodology, and the option of knowledge? Now take a look to the following screen. According to the definitions above, we have the following implications. There's no ultimate meaning for us. Well, science and the natural sciences, the laws of nature are blind forces. Therefore, there is no ultimate meaning. There is no meaning at all and significance of this world. So we live in a cold, deep, and blind cosmos. It's the first implication. The second one is science implies that the world is purely mechanistic. This idea originally fell into the 17th century and to the first contemporary physics. So the world is a great vehicle, is a complicated one, and we have to live in keeping with its laws and forces. We are vehicles, we are machines as the world. Okay, so the science implies this idea that the world is purely mechanistic. The next topic is free will, as traditionally conceived, is an illusion. Well, according to contemporary neuroscience and cognitive studies, free will is a very philosophical, is a very religious idea. Well, it's an idea of law and social contract and no more. There is no free will because we are, as I said before, we are vehicles, we are biological and energetical machines. So we are doomed to be forced. We are doomed to live in keeping with our biology. Okay, so therefore, our aim is to meet the needs. Okay, it means that there is no free will, there is no traditional philosophical and religious concepts as well, because all we have is a science and a scientific methodology. And all we have to do, therefore, is to gain scientific, reliable, credible, and coherent knowledge, respectively. Okay. So, what scientism is? Roughly speaking, scientism is a view that the hard sciences or natural sciences, like chemistry, biology, physics, astronomy, provides the only genuine knowledge of reality. At the very least, the scientific knowledge is vastly superior to what we know from any other discipline. Ethics and religion, and one may add art, so may be accessible, but only if they understood, well, as a matter of subjectivity, as you can see. According to scientism, they claim that ethical and religious conclusions can be just as factual as science, and therefore ought to be affirmed like scientific truth, may be a sign of a bigotry and intolerance. Why, you could ask? Because the true science and the truth in a scientific manner is supposed to be justified. We have to verify what is true and what is not. We have an experiment, we have a methodology of observation, or so-called observation method, and this is what actually we need to do with the facts. Ethics, religion, and art, as such, cannot be considered as a scientific enterprise and practice. All right, and I would like to demonstrate the historical roots of this very idea of scientism. If science is the very reliable source of knowledge, so what is historical roots of this specific viewpoint on science, on knowledge, on progress, on culture and society? As you can see, science and modern science and scientism was born in the 17th century. And this period originally called as a modern or modernism, or in other words, enlightenment. It's a period that gave birth to contemporary science. And I would like to pay attention to the four pillars of modernism. And these pillars is also can be considered as a foundation to so-called scientism. The first notion I would like to speculate about is the truth. According to modernism, according to the 17th century philosophers as Francis Bacon, René Descartes, and many others, truth can be discovered by reason and logical argumentation. There is no other possibility of truth gaining without scientific one. So therefore, truth can be discovered. It's not a matter of revelation. It's not a matter of a particular gift. Truth is a result, is a product of constant efforts, of constant experiments, observation, evidence, data, etc. So truth can be discovered, and we are able to discover what is true and what is not, what is true and what is false, what is good and what is beneficial in this respect. So truth can be discovered. It's the first pillar of the 17th century philosophy called modern philosophy, modernism, or enlightenment philosophy. All right. The next point is methodology. As you can see, methodology is an extremely important topic within philosophy of science and within scientific cycles all over the world. So, and according to the 17th century principle of so-called scientific method, people should rely only on rational discovery through the scientific method and reject. I'd like to point out this idea and reject the belief in the supernatural. There is no there is no wonders and miracles in this world. All we know is that we have to rely on a very credible and relevant method of gaining knowledge. And this method is called scientific method. It's a method of observation and clarification, as you can see. So therefore, we have to rely only on this scientific method. So rational discovery through the scientific method. Besides, we have to reject beliefs in a particular religion, in a particular teaching, doctrine, and something like that. There is no place to supernatural wonders, beliefs, practices, and mysterious experiences within scientific methodology. So why, you could ask? Because most of these things are out of the reason. We cannot understand them because our reason is because our reason is established on the rational basis, and therefore there is no place for unrational or non-rational practices, notions, doctrines, etc. Okay, people should rely only on rational discovery through the use and through the scientific methodology, and reject beliefs in the supernatural. I also like to add some points here about the notion of supernatural. Supernatural, it's not only specifically a religious concept. Well, when we are talking about supernaturalism, we may suppose that it's a matter of miracle. It's a matter of unexpected events. So therefore, we, as a science, as a scientist, as scholars, we have to reject this and refuse this particular doctrine. Well, it's the second pillar of modernism or scientific methodology. All right. The next topic is philosophy of history. We all live in keeping with some purpose, and we do like an idea of purpose in our life. So, as you can see, modern philosophy or enlightenment, the period of enlightenment is a philosophy of a particular purpose or goal of history. According to this viewpoint, humans can and should conquer this planet, or the Earth, and all its measures using science and technology. All we have to do is to reject these old-fashioned practices, and all we have to do, therefore, is to conquer. I'd like to emphasize this idea, to conquer the Earth and all its measures using science and technology. Therefore, science and technology is the very way of conquering this planet and the world as well. Science in this case, it's not only a respectable and tolerant discipline and practice. It's a practice of conquer. Keep this in mind. All right. And this idea, as you can see, originally was established in the 17th century. Science and technology they are means of conquering the Earth and the nature. Okay, the next and the first pillar of this of the scientism is an idea of progress. According to philosophers of the 17th century, human progress through the use of science and technology is inevitable. We are doomed to be free, and we are doomed to be well-equipped, when we have to, to rely on this idea, an idea of progress. This idea originally appealing to 17th century European epistemology, an idea of progress. We have to establish a brand new society and a brand new world. So, and science is supposed to be a very reliable method of progress. Therefore, progress is inevitable. It's a crucial idea of scientism. Progress is inevitable. And scientism, as you can see, is inevitable because of these four pillars of modernism, or because, as you can see, of these viewpoints on science, truth, facts, data, etc. All right. So it is appropriate to conclude that historical background of scientism is deeply rooted in 17th century philosophy, or rather epistemology, a theory of knowledge. And these pillars is the very foundation of scientism, as I've mentioned above. All right. So scientism, as you can see, is a very specific philosophy. It's not a science in itself, as it may seem, but it's a philosophy, or I would like to emphasize that it's even more than philosophy. It's a specific theory of reality. It's a specific theory of knowledge. So we can no longer ignore this worldview challenge of scientism, because we live in a society of many ideas, and ideas matter. And we have to clarify this idea of scientific breakthrough in science and scientism as well, if we want to understand what is so-called scientific perspective on anthropology, on evolution, on cosmos, universe, and even values, religion, ethics, morality, art, music, etc. So it's an extremely important idea of science. All right. So I also would like to make some points about scientism. So do we really need this word scientism these days? I guess yes, because we need it, because it describes a very specific way of thinking that has profound and radical, implications in almost every sphere of the Western world and all over the globe as well. So we need it because as a way of scientific thinking is becoming more and more dominant in the world. We really need this notion of scientism. And living in a global world, living in the present-day reality, we would deny that science is a great value. It is also widely believed that through science and through the technology, through the scientific breakthrough, we can live much more better than in the 17th century. Okay, so scientism, but is there any option of reconciliation between science and scientism? Is there any option or possibilities? We have to keep in mind that science is a very practice of a very specific methodology. It's a constant effort, it's a constant practice of methodology, of a very specific methodology, as I can say. But scientism is not a methodology in a scientific way, in a scientific practice. scientism is a philosophy, and this philosophy becomes more and more crucial in this global world. Okay, and the next topic I also would like to speculate about is the notion of value-free science. So, science strives to examine all aspects of visible world: physical objects, chemical reactions, economics, history, society, well, everything we have. So, and science strives to examine all of these aspects with a value-free orientation. So, and thus, science aims towards objectivity, and scholars supposed to examine all aspects of the nature and society, each with a healthy measure of neutrality. However, in the last few decades, we have been made imply that complete neutrality or objectivity is only an ideal, which is difficult, if not impossible, to achieve perfectly. We are each grounded in our own cultural, religious, or philosophical backgrounds, and I may add even political backgrounds. So, and the study of world from those situated perspectives. We are male or female, young or old, with experiences, educated and uneducated, and then that shaped our color, the lenses through which we see the world. So, nevertheless, scholars attempt to maintain a high level of awareness and critical self-reflexive stance in order to discern how those factors, some of which are constant, for instance, gender and other shifting experience, affect their investigations. So, as you can see, there is no absolute bias-free or value-free science because of cultural background, because of political background, so because of education, because of religion, because of because of many things, in fact, of birthplace. Okay, and the crucial point here is the role of presuppositions. So what is presuppositions in science and in scientism? We have to keep in mind that no discipline operates without presuppositions guiding its study and investigation, even science, because some scholars and people perceive and consider science as an objective, neutral, and a bias-free knowledge and practice. Is it so? No. Why, you could ask? Because everyone has a worldview, and worldview or attitude informs both how we understand the world and how we live in this world, so, and how we answer life's ultimate questions. So, the beliefs comprising our worldview are intricately connected. Some are basic, requiring no proof, and these are our presuppositions. So, other beliefs are directly informed by presuppositions, supporting our other beliefs. Beliefs then connect to an ultimate finding truth in one or more of our presuppositions. So, what does it all mean? We live, as we humans, we live in a particular environment, and there is no option to live without society. We are social by definition, so we live in, and therefore live in a world, not a specific culture, but a specific attitude toward ethics, toward science, etc. And even as we are scholars or academics, we also have such presuppositions and assumptions before we are getting started to to examine something. So we are full of presuppositions, prejudices, and assumptions. And we have to keep this idea in mind, because there is no pure, in this respect, there is no pure science. Science is based on the very system of presuppositions and assumptions. And even, yes, I would tell you that science is based on idea of prejudices. Is it normally to claim that? Yes, because it is because we live in a culture, and culture as such is full of these presuppositions. Okay, so there is no for this exact reason an absolute neutral and objective science. So we must identify our presuppositions and understand why we affirm these presuppositions as opposed to others. And we must ask whether our presuppositions are reasonable and true. And after all, not everyone's presuppositions are valid, because we might question beliefs due to faulty presuppositions, not that even good presuppositions do necessarily give rise to beliefs that what is true and what is not. And once again, as you can see, science strives to be an objective knowledge. Science strives to be a value-free and bias-free. But unfortunately, it's not possible because of many cultural contexts, because of education, maybe because of religion, maybe because of political agenda, and maybe because of so-called cultural agenda this day, and especially in the Western countries and culture, as you can see. And I guess here I'm appealing to humanities, as you can see, because in the Western countries, in Germany, for instance, in Germany, there is no humanities, even if it is a linguistic or psychology or social science, or or even political science, without this political and cultural agenda. I mean, gender theory. Therefore, there is no objective humanities. But it's not a matter of humanities as well, because even as so-called natural sciences or hard science, they also established in keeping with so-called political matters and issues, whether we like it or not. Okay, and I also would like to make some conclusions about this specific topic, about scientism and value-free science. So scientism should not be dogmatic or uncritical, nor should it ignore the actual limitations of current scientific knowledge. And one of great ironies of all of this is that scientism is not a doctrine of science. Yeah, we may think that scientism is a scientific way of explanation or clarification, or it's a scientific perspective on a particular scene, but nothing of this can be true and is true. Why? Because scientism is a very specific way of philosophy. And and more specifically, scientism is actually a doctrine of epistemology, as I said above. So it's a branch of philosophy that studies what knowledge is and how we obtain it, how we obtain knowledge and what is knowledge, what is reliable knowledge, what is valid knowledge, and what is not. So this is what about epistemology. But scientism, in this case, is a branch of epistemology, or is an option of epistemology. It is a specific theory of reality and of knowledge itself. Okay, here's another irony, and I would like to make a conclusion about this topic, that scientists distorts science. It sounds ridiculous, but it is. But by its very nature, science cannot claim to be the only way to know reality, because it's not a matter of science to claim something about reality. It's a matter of science is to observe, is to examine, is to clarify, is to reconcile, is to make an experiment, and etc. So science is a mean of something, or of achieving something. It's not a philosophy, or even in this, we are talking about scientism as a scientific philosophy, or as you can see, a scientific theory of reality. So science is a practical mean, while scientism is a very specific philosophy and notion. Okay, and this is what I would like to tell you today about science, value-free science and scientism. And thank you so much for being with me. And if you have questions about scientism, value-free science, please ask me now.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. For all participants, if you have any question for the speaker, please add them to the chat or you can raise your hand. Okay, for first question, we have question from Mr. Sukamto from engineering class.
Okay.
Okay, what are the key distinction between skin tips and philosophy and the methodology employed in scientific practice? How does the growing influence of scientific impact the global landscape, and how does it intersect with the notion of worldview orientation in scientific inquiry across various disciplines? Thank you.
Well, this relation is quite complicated, because as you can see, there is no pure science, and there is no pure and separate scientific methodology, because we have, and why all of these things are taking place, and why, you could ask, why there is no pure science, why there is no pure methodology. It is because we have to justify every time, we have to justify everything we have to establish or to practice. We have to justify. There is no math or calculations without justification. There is no physics without justification. Chemistry, game theory. There is no well, and even as we are talking about religion and ethics, we have to justify a certain set of principles and rules and doctrines, how to live and how should we live, how and what we have to avoid, because we live in a world of justification. And the reason here, I guess, in a very specific nature of our cogito, or our consciousness, so, or self-awareness, we have to we want to understand this world and ourselves, because we live in this world, and therefore we want to make a rational conclusion about this world, and well, and our behavior and our place in this world. So um, and therefore there is no absolute objective science and methodology as well, because methodology, what is method? Method is a constant way of doing something, constant, coherent, and you know, consistent way of doing something. Yes, it's true, but methodology, scientific methodology is based on as you can see, as a particular system of presuppositions. Okay. Hopefully, I will be clear at in this respect and at this point.
Okay,
What about
yeah.
and what about the next question?
Okay, from Miss Diarami, how the scientific theorem from the scientists on old era being had been relied on modern society and the era of the 4.0? Thank you.
Um, well, once again, scientific theory, okay. Behind the related modern society also. It's a very good question, and I would like to thank you for such an interesting remark here. You know, we live in a world we live in a historical world. When we up to the previous generation of scholars and scientists, so we can no longer ignore the previous experience in science and in methodology. So yes, we live in a world of we live in a modern world with a giant leap in and breakthrough in science, in methodology, in technology, especially in informational technologies, and even as in neuroscience and cognitive studies. You are right, dear Rami, you are absolutely right in this respect. But the question of relation between between these old-fashioned or old scholars and contemporary scholars is obvious one. Why? You could ask, because our achievements in science today is up to contribution of the 17th century philosophers of science and scholars. Isaac Newton, for instance, René Descartes, German philosophers and mathematician Gottfried Leibniz. So how can we live in a world without these acclaimed and well-respected scholars? So I guess, for instance, how we can live in a world or be a scientist without revolution in calculations, which originally was done by German mathematician Karl Ludwig Weierstrass. It's not possible. It's not possible to live in a world without our previous experience in science, in math and physics, and even as in religious studies. So how the scientific theorem from the scientists and old era had been rated on modern society and era of the 4.0. I guess that it's there is no interference between the 17th century and the present day realm, because we do live due to constant and numerous efforts of these giants of the 17th century. And thank you so much for such a consistent question. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, thank you for answering. And then the last question from Miss Paulina.
Okay, Paulina.
Yeah,
Okay,
could you
elaborate.
elaborate,
Okay.
yeah,
Mhm.
on how scientific and epistemological
All right.
stand emphasizing the primacy of scientific knowledge intersect with the concept of value-free science? How do these notions reconcile, particularly in fields where ethical consideration are inherently intertwined with scientific inquiry? Thank you.
All right. So, Paulina, can we uh, can we elaborate on and can we reconcile epistemological stance, scientism, scientific knowledge, well, your free science, in the fields where ethical considerations are inherently intertwined with the scientific inquiry? Yes, we have at least we have to do this. Oh, because uh, as I mentioned above, when my aim is to clarify that there is no pure science, and this topic in my presentation is about uh, um, impossibility of pure and free science. Uh, why? You could ask. Because science, despite many similarities between science and philosophy, science is also um, up to ethics and morality. Yes, there is so-called scientific ethics. We have to be honest and clear in our methodology. We have to be honest and clear in our methodology. So just keep this in mind. There's no scientific, um, there's no scientific knowledge. There is no scientific research, especially these days, uh, based on uh, based on science in itself. It's not possible because science in itself is based on logic, on philosophy, and even is on ethics. So we all have to be clear in our research and honest. Um, and frankly speaking, if you are not honest scholar these days, uh, it's not possible to publish your papers and to share your findings with the scholars all over the globe because of this specific and crucial character of ethics. And I guess the primary demand of contemporary science is to be honest, is to be open-minded, is to be clear when it comes to methodology and research as well. So, and yes, scientism, scientism as a philosophy is not clear enough. And sometimes scholars who fell in love with scientism, they are making mistakes about the role of science. And about, yes, we have to admit that science is a great enterprise, and all we have these days, electricity, internet, medicine, and new technologies, is all up to science. It's all due to science, and that's true. But science in itself is not a philosophy and is not an ethics, but uh, science is based on these two notions or these two pillars of scientific inquiry and research. So, um, mhm. And therefore, we have to be bias-free researchers and scholars. or when it comes about and when we are talking about a very specific field of research. When we are making a research, we have to first of all we have to be clear in methodology and honest. We have to quote scholars and our colleagues. We have to debate some of their ideas and not to make a logical and rhetorical fallacies. For instance, ad hominem, ignoratio elenchi, and so many others rhetorical fallacies. We have to avoid these fallacies in order to make a consistent and coherent research. And it is both for humanities and natural sciences. And yes, thank you so much for such a beautiful and question. I do find your question ever helpful and insightful in this respect.
Okay, thank you for answering. I think it's very clear answer from Professora. Thank you so much for Mr. Artem. Okay, before I close this event, for all participants, please open your camera. I will take a picture on the count of three for documentation today. Okay, one, two, three. Okay, another one, one, two, three. Smile, thank you. Thank you for your keen cooperation. Finally, we come to the end of visiting lecture today. We would like to thank you for Mr. Artem dan Kanich for the wonderful information and sharing your knowledge. We hope this information will be beneficial for all participants. At least we hope to have more collaboration in the future. The visiting lecture for today and here. We hope to see you soon. Thank you and have a nice day.
And thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today, and see you. Hopefully to see you again and to speculate with you about science and methodology, uh, from a very different viewpoints. Thank you so much, and peace and mercy be with you all the time.
Yeah, thank you. And
All right, thank you.